Good evening all, or good morning all should I say. 32 minutes past midnight here in the UK. What's up, Josh? Took me a second, but I remembered. Hi Phil, back from bees. Can't find my usual mug, so I'm drinking out of a paper cup. Don't know what I've done with it. Put it down somewhere. Hey, Quaker Piper. I finally managed to get my Maraman lighter working. The problem that I had seems to be the lighter fluid that I was using. Hi Michael. I was using some basic cheapy Clipper lighter fuel, and no matter what I did I couldn't get it to start to work. So I eventually bought myself some of this stuff. Hi Razvan. Some Newport butane refill, and it's a much higher quality. It seems to be a much higher quality gas. And then no sooner had I filled it up, but the flint ran out as well. Hi Tree. Was watching your video just now, as you probably saw. I commented. So now it works. New flint and refilled. Great little lighter. And tonight, at the moment, I'm smoking my Northern Briars Quebec. A lovely, lovely pipe. And in it, I'm smoking some Christmas Cheers 2014. I got this from Stutter, from Cynthia and Susan. And this sat unopened for probably a year in my cellar, because I wasn't smoking Virginias at all. And no sooner had I gotten onto Virginias, after moving over to filtered pipes, I absolutely adore the stuff now. Obviously, timing is great because I can't get any more of it. People used to talk so much about the Christmas Cheers and the special editions from McClelland's, and I never ever sort of got it. I never understood it, and all that changed when I went over to filtered pipes. So Tree, it might be worthwhile if your missus tries a filtered pipe. Hi Pipe Madness. If your wife tries a filtered pipe, you never know. It may completely change her selection of tobaccos that she can smoke. It's a very chunky tobacco. And that's a real broken flake. I do find it sometimes it's a bit hard to load. When you break it up, it's quite brittle. It sort of doesn't come apart like other flakes do. It's quite hard. But it's worth the effort. It rewards with some lovely smoke. I used to never be able to get past the McClelland ketchup smell, but now it doesn't bother me at all. In fact, for me, it actually enhances the overall flavour profile. This tobacco tray is made by, I can't remember his name, but his handle is Agape Leather something or other. Check him out on the IG. I think they're about $20, something like that. I bought mine when he first started out, so I think he sent me 2 at the time. Is that short for Giselle? The scary dog once again. Hey, sorry, what? You lost me there. Oh, right, that one. Explain to me, what are you so scared about? It's the cutest thing in the world. Smoking a pipe. He's hand in his pocket. He's just chilling, man. Oh, Gizmo. I got this in the Israti sale. I don't know if that lot means anything. So what have you lot been up to these days? You all had a good week? Well, trying to make $1, yeah. I guess we're all in the same boat there. Well, Josh, I'm not sure if it was a subliminal inspiration from watching you make your cupboard, but I went to IKEA on Thursday and bought myself a unit to hold my tobacco in. And then decided that it wasn't quite right. They had one which was a little bit better. I went back on Friday to return the other one and get the new unit. And I was expecting to have a mammoth sort of struggle, as you expect when you go to IKEA to return stuff. And it was actually not too bad. It did threaten to be a problem. We were sitting in the waiting room, and the waiting room was actually very nice. Nice comfy chairs there. And they've got about 8 computer stations for people working on the returns, and of course there was only one person there. So when I got there was only about 3 or 4 people in front of me, but as you do, the guys in front of me were taking forever. And then within a space of about 5 minutes the whole room filled up, and there must have been about 20 people waiting, and they still had only one person at the tills, the exchange tills. And I'm like any other Englishman, very patient. We love queues. Anyway, I kind of got impatient, and I very politely went to somebody working behind one of the screens there, in an office behind, and I said, any chance of you getting somebody else on the tills? So the guy comes out, has a look around. Okay, I'll do that as soon as it gets busy. I said, busy? There's 20 people waiting, there's only one person there. And obviously I hadn't been there when it's really busy, when there's 100 people waiting, but he didn't really think it was very busy, so he didn't get anybody else on. But thankfully it moved along quite quickly, and when it was my turn I was done in 10 seconds. Straight refund, went back in, bought the second unit and loaded it and up and off I went. So that wasn't too bad. I was in and out, having returned one and purchased another, probably in about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And I went straight to the tills. I didn't go from the entrance. You know when you go into IKEA and you start at the front entrance and you want to get something from the hall downstairs where they've got all the self-service stuff, and you've got to walk through the whole showroom, and it's just ridiculous. It drives me absolutely up the wall. On Thursday when I went, I wasn't feeling that great. My head was spinning a little bit, and you're literally walking around in circles. And I said to my wife, "This is ridiculous." I was getting really peed off, but we managed. So when I went back on Friday, I was really expecting to have a rough time of it. Tree, using it all the time. Can't thank you enough. This is a lovely tamper made by Pipe Tree. I haven't made it yet. I only got it on Friday, so I'm probably going to make it tomorrow afternoon, something like that. When I say make it, put it together. It's not a big unit. It's actually quite a small unit. It's just a tall boy, basically. It's a narrow chest of drawers. But it should be just about right for me. James stuff, how you doing? Is that a new picture you've got on your logo there? Jim? Paul Sardo, how you doing? Spent about 45 minutes in the line of IKEA a few days ago, not fun. Cool. Well, with all the whinging about IKEA, I can go back about 30 years ago when it was all MFI. If you wanted to get some flat pack stuff, you went to MFI. And you can't compare the quality. IKEA stuff is definitely superior, no question about it. It was either MFI or Argos. I remember one time my dad had bought a bunk bed, you know, a double-decker bed. I don't know what you call that in America, if it's also called a bunk bed. Here, scary doggy, look after my pipe. So my dad had bought a bunk bed, and my father is a very, very docile, quiet person. Doesn't say boo to a goose. Very, very rarely anyway. And it takes a lot to get him angry. And so he bought this bed at MFI, brought it home, and my father was very handy. Any kind of handiness that I've got myself is learnt from my dad. And if you know, he would spend a lot of. He worked very, very hard all his life. He recently retired a few years ago, and worked very, very hard. And he was the type of person who would work all day, very honest, straight down the line guy. And then in the evening would work another few hours, sort of decorating the house. He would do painting, he would do wallpapering, a little bit of woodwork. He put his hand to whatever he could to save a bit of money. In the early years when he was bringing us up, he really worked hard and struggled to keep head above water and earn an honest penny. Hi Maui. So anyway, he bought this bunk bed, brought it home, spent a couple of hours putting it, trying to put it together, only to discover after struggling with it for a couple of hours, that some of the pieces were missing. And that's extremely frustrating. And when you're working hard and toiling over something, and then you have nothing to show for it at the end because of somebody else's incompetence, that's very galling and very frustrating. And my father was really teed off at the time. Anyway, took it all apart. I mean, the big bits I think he left together actually, and we put it all in the car or van or whatever it was at the time, and we all marched off to MFI. So we get to MFI. We had to wait a long time in the queue, in the returns queue. And so my father explained the situation to this young, spotty teenager who didn't really give a monkeys about anything. And my father felt completely like he wasn't being taken seriously. And the guy said, "Okay, sir, we'll give you another one." And my father, or something like that, which I suppose is fair enough. But my father had worked so hard on it, and we'd waited so long in the queue, that he said, "I'm sorry, no, I want an apology. I've spent a lot of time. In fact, I want you to pay me for my time." And that's very rare for my father to do such a thing. And he really got angry, and he started shouting, and not abusively, but just really, getting quite annoyed. And eventually, he managed to get the manager to come out, who apologised profusely. And I'm not sure if I can't really remember, because we're going back probably about 35 years, something like that. And he may have even given my father £20. I don't remember. And in those days, £20 was a decent bit of money. Yes, Maui, we're smoking some Christmas cheer from 2014. Very nice stuff. Jack D's dad. I haven't seen that. Is that in one of his programs? I should put that story on one of my videos, I suppose, when in an appropriate video somebody gives a gore about that, or about something that could work on. Or maybe I'll set that as a one of my next giveaways. I do have to dream up something for my 2000 goal, which apparently is coming up quite soon. So if you guys got any good ideas, the scary dog. Maybe I will. Oh, right, okay. Well, if Quaker Piper says that he'll do a presentation on YouTube, maybe I will give it away. And we'll have to doctor the results to make sure that he wins it. Right, Quaker? I do enjoy aromatics, but it's not a daily smoke for me. It used to be. It used to be all I smoked. I used to smoke a lot of Boswell's No Bite Delight. No Bite Delight. And I used to smoke Cult Blood Red Moon a lot. I had a bowl of it the other day, which I hadn't had for a long time, so I enjoyed that. So yeah, I do enjoy aromatics, but I am finding that McClelland's Virginias are really hitting the spot for me. So, any of you guys got some spare McClelland's Virginias, send them my way. Maui, I still have to hit you up. I said that last time. Go on then, James. Do explain. It was getting dry, yes. No pressure. I'm timing to see how many clicks per minute you do. Which aromatic? Maui? And by the way, Tree, I haven't forgotten. I know I've got a package to send you, don't worry. It'll happen. And I won't disappoint. Chocolate silk is very nice. I've had it. I had 2 tins of it. I smoked one and I gave one away. I gave one away to a new presenter about a year and a half ago, and he fell in love with it. It was one of the first, I think it was John T. Piper, something like that. I've never smoked corncob pipe. Is that a Cornell and Deal blend? Yeah, I've seen quite a few people smoke that, but I've never tried it. Cheers, geezer. Treat. It is chocolatey. I don't remember it being burley-ish to me. I'm not a big burley fan, as many of you will know. I tried Velvet recently. Yeah, I didn't really like it, but I'll keep it in the hope that it will appeal to me at another later date, hopefully. Tree, do you have you smoked Velvet before? Do you like burleys? Things like Haunted Bookshop, Old Joe Krantz, that kind of stuff? Well, go and get another beer. You just ordered it. Well, somebody sent me a sample. I've still not tried it. Apparently, it's quite a strong blend, but I'm just really not sort of excited about it because I just don't like burleys. But maybe I'll give it a try. Maybe I'll do a first impressions here. Have you smoked any burley blends, Tree? Curious to know what you think of them. Have you tried the Solani aged burley? Michael, what are we smoking tonight? I assume you have a cigar in hand. Yabo is yet another box opening. So when people get a box, some people, when they get a gift from somebody else, so they'll call it a Yabo. Sometimes when they buy stuff and they're opening a package, they might call it a Yapo, which is yet another package opening. Or it's interchangeable, I suppose. There's no hard and fast rule. The Padron Damaso, I think I've had one of those. Is that the one with like a cream, light green coloured band on it? Right, I think this ball is just about done. Okay, what do we do next? Should we do a haunted bookshop, which I'm not really in the mood for, or go for a cigar? Or Big Smoke in like Las Vegas, I'd love to go to one of those. I'm still waiting to get to my first pipe meet. Not pipe meet, but pipe show. I'm really hoping to be able to go to the Nottingham Pipe Show in July or June, whenever it is. Well, if Haunted Bookshop has got Perique in it, I'll probably prefer it. I do like Perique. Yeah. I think the Big Smoke in Miami was the first one, wasn't it? Wasn't that the original one? There it is, Jim. McBaron Golden Extra. I have tried that one. He sent me something else as well. I've got a bunch of Virginias here to try from... Yeah, that is yours, Jim. I got this from Phil. From, what does he call himself? Max Northwest something. Celania Virginia Flake, I think I've tried that. Stokerby Luxury Navy Flake. I've got the Luxury Twist. Best Brown, I think I've tried that. HH Virginia. I think I've tried most of these. Solani Silver Flake. I've got to tell you, I really... Hey Tim, I did really enjoy that Amphora Virginia. I've jarred some of it up now, so I want to see what it's like with a bit of jar time. Let's just give this Haunted Bookshop a smell. It's got a bit of a spicy aroma to it. Quite a light one though. Sort of a mulchy, earthy smell. Alright, so I think we'll do a little bit of a live first impressions of Haunted Bookshop. I'm a little bit intimidated by it, given its reputation. I'm just going to do a little bit of weed. Quaker Piper, is there any tobacco that I've thrown away? No, is the short answer. What I have done is I'll certainly tip out a bowl. I'm not one of these guys that will just smoke it to the end because I have to smoke it. Nice one, Jim. And even a tobacco that I like, if I'm smoking and I'm just not enjoying it, I'll tip it out. Because I've mentioned many times on my channel, I don't usually fill a bowl. I usually have about half a bowl at a time. And the reason for that is twofold. One is that I just find that halfway down, you start to get an ashy flavour on. Not every tobacco, but many tobaccos. It gets a bit ashy. And secondly, whenever I come to an end of a bowl and it's hard to light and it just kind of is not enjoyable anymore, I tip it out and I find that there's still a decent bit of unsmoked tobacco there, but you come to a point where it just doesn't smoke well. It's not as combustible. So rather than waste that and rather than get the ashy flavour, I generally just go half a bowl, and that way I can enjoy 3 or 4 different bowls of different tobaccos and still have only consumed 1 or 1.5 full bowls a day. So I can also feel good about the fact that I haven't over smoked. The light is not new. I've had it a while. It's a Maraman, but I spoke earlier on, I couldn't get it going because the gas I was using, which was this stuff, just wasn't working. I don't know why, but I got hold of some of this after posting my question on a Facebook group. Got some of this and it worked, no problem. Changed the flint and it works fantastic. Yeah, so I have started doing that. I've started tipping out the ash. You do tend to get a bit of an uneven cherry on the top, and you have to kind of retamp and relight and get it going again, almost like a new char. But yeah, it does help. But I generally still prefer to just do half a bowl. And I just prefer to do half a bowl and then light another bowl after that if I want to. Okay, so Haunted Bookshop, here we go. Actually, I'm just going to eat something just to get a little bit of food in me. We've got a nice, rich piece of chocolate cake. I keep all my open pipe tobaccos in a plastic airtight container, and my regular rotations I keep up there. Well, they're not all regular, but some of them are. I'll give you a little tour. There's some of my pipes. Some of these were in my rotation and perhaps not so much anymore. So we've got some Northwoods. This is actually, what is this? This is an aromatic, back with a hat. Dunhill Flake, London Fog, Special Latakia Flake, some Rich Dark Flake, Frogmorton Cellar, Plum Pudding, Elizabethan, Mississippi River, Dunhill Yacht, Sunset Breeze. Some of these are from a while back, so I'm not really smoking those. Some Penzance, and in there is, what is that? Full Virginia Flake, Sleepy Hollow, some more Special Latakia Flake, a decent amount of Northwoods, some other bits and bobs, Frog on a Log, Royal Jersey, Chocolate Cream from Boswell's. And there, some more. Those are my open tobaccos. Funny you should ask, Pipe and Spirits. I happen to know the guy very, very well. I know him intimately, actually. In fact, it's actually, I'm told that the guy who makes it is a recluse. And people don't know what he looks like. Well, some people do if they were on a week ago or so. Pipe and Spirits is my own hash up of Virginia Woods by McLaren's and All It Golden Sliced. It's a mixture I came across when I was experimenting a while back, and I've done many mix-ups and hash-ups, and this is the only one that has stuck with me and become a regular smoke. And a lot of people have tried it and enjoyed it. He is a scary dog holder. That is true. Alright, let's get this thing lit. Right, which pipe? That is cool. So happy that happened. Where was that? In America? They probably thought you were asking for some smog in a bottle from the 50s. Right, has anybody smoked this? Jim, is this a bitey kind of stuff? I suppose I should use a filter pipe. I'm feeling lightheaded just thinking about it. Well, here goes. This is a Passatore pipe. Well, who's a strong big boy, Steve? It's a small bowl, so if I don't like it, I won't waste too much. Yeah, Steve. Yeah, it is a nice grain. I bought this in a state on eBay, and it was a pretty good price, considering the condition it was in. It's literally as new. It's got a nice grain on the side, and it's got some nice structure on the top. Here goes for some Haunted Bookshop. No ping. No, to be honest, it's a lovely lighter, that DuPont knockoff, but it's not ideal for pipe lighting. This Marraman lighter is probably one of the best. I've got a quite a variety of lighters, and I find this one to be the best when it works, because this thing here, you hold it in your hand like that, and it's like a automatic kind of movement, and it's very well built. It's chunky, it's solid, it's weighty, and being a flint, you don't have to worry about the piezo not working or anything like that. You can adjust the flame very nicely, and I like to use a small flame. It keeps you from burning the rim. Talking too much, it's gone out already. These go on eBay for about £70–80 nowadays, second hand, and I was fortunate enough to pick this up at the Esurati sale, and I paid £5 for it. Well, my palate is a bit chocolatey at the moment, so I'm just going to grab a little bit of Diet Coke to cleanse one's palate. It's kind of in the same vein as the average Old Boy style, but it's got this little bit on the top here which is very ergonomic. It looks out of place, this bit here. It's like a tang of a knife, but it just works very well. Well, in terms of flavours that I'm getting so far, I'm getting a bit of a, and this is not from the chocolate cake, but I'm getting a bit of a chocolatey cocoa flavour, a little bit of a mild spice. It's got quite a nice rounded flavour actually. This really isn't tasting like other Burleys to me. So wait, oh no, that's not the bag. I've already put it away. Haunted Bookshop. At this stage, the flavour is actually quite mild. It's got a very slight floral flavour to it. Does that make sense, Jim? Bit of sweetness there, a little bit. Really, yeah, I know it's his favourite. Matches 860. Yes, Kevin, buddy, it is some Burley. We're smoking some Haunted Bookshop for the first time. I am getting a little bit heady. I don't know if that's just in my mind. Excuse the pun. I can hear what you're saying about that, Jim. There is a little bit of a tickle at the back of the throat, but it's not so much a burn for me. It's more of a bit of like a bit of heat. There's definitely something like a chili heat there. Yeah, Kevin, possibly. I'm not sure yet if it's just in my mind or if it's actually a bit heady. It's quite a nice aroma. Yeah, I can get that, Jim. A little bit of sourdough bready kind of. It is a strong one, Kevin. It's supposed to be pretty strong. Well, it seems to have a lot going for it in terms of it's kind of covering a lot of bases. You've got a bit of Virginia sweetness coming through, which I'm surprised to find, but that's what I'm getting. Unless it's a legacy from what was in there before. I don't remember what I smoked in here before. It would have been a Virginia of some kind. So I'm getting a bit of a sweetness, but it's really only a tad. I am getting that sort of round, sort of beefy, sort of central ground flavour. There's a little bit of a top note to it, which is, to me, it seems very mild, but a bit of a floral note. Getting a bit of a cocoa, sort of something akin to that breadiness which you're talking about, perhaps somewhere around that kind of region, and it's pleasant enough. But what I will say is that from all the burleys that I've tried, this one so far is the most agreeable. Yeah, I imagine it's nickel or something like that. It's not silver with a black insert. A nice sort of swirly tortoise shell type acrylic stem on it. I'm not a big acrylic fan, but I'm not going to mess around with this one. This pipe is a nice pipe as it is. Just going to leave it as it was originally intended by its maker. I was reading, yes, it's filtered, yeah. I was reading up on Pipes and Tobacco magazine. I picked up a couple of these from the Danish Pipe Shop. This is from 17 and this is 2018. And I tell you, they've got some lovely write-ups of pipe carvers in America, and I'm really tempted to contact them once I have a little bit of disposable income. The only issue that I've got is that most of these guys don't do filtered pipes, which is a bit of a shame. Same problem with Boswell's, they won't do a filtered pipe. I did make contact with which company was it? In America, and they were quite happy to do one for me. Trying to remember the name. No, I don't think it was Luther. It's R. Lewis. It's Lewis Pipe and Tobacco. Rich Lewis. He responded to my email. I I became aware of them after watching one of Babyface Huey's videos. At the moment, he's really a very popular presenter with me, because I just love shop videos, which is why I take them myself when I go to shops. Yeah, Josh. So I like the look of their pipes, and their pipes are quite wholesome, and you feel like you're somebody at home, homey kind of guys made those pipes. And so I got in touch with them, and I asked them if they would do one, and they said they would. But one of the things which, I wouldn't say discouraged me, but I'm finding that in America, the prices are quite steep. I don't remember if I spoke about this last time. I was going to do a video about it, but I decided against it because I just thought it sounded like I'm whinging. But I think I did speak about this already on one of the live chats. But the English carvers, like Northern Briars and Blakemar, for anywhere between 60, 70 pounds, you can get a fantastic pipe from those guys. And essentially they are artisan carvers. They're not a factory pipe, they're fully handmade. So the value for money is phenomenal. And you go to an artisan carver in the US, you've got to expect to pay between $200 and $400 to get a decent pipe. And I find that their prices increase very quickly once they become well known and established, and that's great. I don't begrudge them the income, but I'm just observing the difference between the prices here in the UK and in America. And just to give an example, this calabash from Northern Briars, a really nice pipe, silver band, proper Cumberland stem, handmade, paid £103, £108, something like that. The Winslow, yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. I've got a couple of Winslows, one I haven't smoked yet, and this one, which you're probably talking about. I really like this, it's quite a unique shape, and it's quite a standout kind of design. Really interesting sort of spiral shank, plateau, quite a deep bowl, good for Virginias. Pretty good grain, bit of rustication. This rustication actually really helps you grip. Yeah, I'm enjoying the pipe. But you need to just bear in mind that these pipes are really, they churn out quite a lot of pipes. So this one, the drill on this one, is not great, but smokes well. See, on this one, the drill hole is right at the top of the shank. Good night, Steve. Thanks for joining. The drill hole, the draft hole is right at the top there, which in a way I'm happy about, because when you drill, if he was to get it right in the middle, that means it would end up somewhere like there, which would leave very little thickness on the heel of the pipe. And I think that's a problem with a lot of pipes, especially curved pipes, when they've got to drill at an angle. You find that the draft hole being right at the bottom, but it's literally a few millimeters off there. And I do like a pipe to have a little bit, maybe a 7 or 8 mil at least. Otherwise the stumble gets very hot. And I always wonder, how is it possible that they can drill there when you've got a curved pipe? But the reality is that what's probably happened is that that's why you'll often have a ring or an insert, a silver insert or something like that, because the actual drill starts over there and it will be drilled from right from the edge virtually, and that's a straight line there. But in order so that you don't see that it's completely off center, they'll put some adornment on it, and then this is probably an extension. I would imagine this, although there's wood in there, there's briar in there, but I'm pretty sure that's an extension, and it's drilled from there. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't an extension. I might be wrong. I'm just trying to... Yeah, no, it's definitely an extension. You see that, sorry, but I'm just trying to shine the torch in there. So you see that line there in the middle, I don't know if you can see it. But that's where the extension meets the top of the shank. And you can just about see that it's drilled at an angle there. On some pipes it really takes me a while to figure out how they've drilled it. Some of them, they just look impossibly drilled. Literally like they're drilling round bends. But eventually you do see the roots, how they've done it. Well, this haunted bookshop, it's for me it's gone a little bit bland now. And although it's not unpleasant, it's not something at this stage anyway that I'm really capturing. It, all it being that it's only a first time I'm smoking it, and there's probably a lot of nuances which I'm not getting. But for all the talk about the strength and all of that, I was expecting something really overpowering in terms of flavour, not just strength. And it's really quite a subtle smoke. Definitely getting a head rush, definitely getting a nicotine rush now. And I don't really get hit by nicotine these days, so this stuff must be pretty potent in terms of nicotine. You know, I could smoke a full-on cigar without any adverse reaction at all, but this one is really making me quite lightheaded. So I'm gonna leave this there because I don't want to end up feeling sort of unwell or anything. It's burnt quite quickly. I've virtually finished that half a bowl as it is. It's a pleasant tobacco. It's got nice flavours, and as I say, it's really a very first impressions, and I'm probably not getting the nuances. You know, you try a new tobacco, you've really got to smoke it a while to really get to grips with it and to get to know it, and to know its behaviour and so on, and how to get the best out of it and the best flavours. So it's a really very uneducated opinion at this stage, but as I say, a very pleasant enough smoke, nice flavours, some interesting sort of top notes coming through from time to time, but I didn't find it sort of setting my world on fire. It kind of, it's making me a little bit sleepy, but in terms of flavours, it's really not something which making a huge impact on me. I think it is something that I would like to try again, and I could see why somebody might mix something else with that just to dilute it a little bit and to perhaps give it a little bit more interest. And I can see why was it you, Josh? You said you added some cabbies mixture, was it, or Three Nuns, to get a little bit of that, some richness in there. But to be honest, I don't feel the need to acclimatise myself to such a strong tobacco. There's so much available. I'm not a nicotine fiend, although I can stand a fair amount. But I don't think that I crave nicotine. I really don't. But it could just be that I don't sort of perceive it, but subliminally I do. Either way, I don't feel like I'm a nicotine fiend. So there's so many other tobaccos out there. I don't feel the need to acclimatise myself to it and then sort of perhaps find that other tobaccos are too benign as a result, because I'm not getting that nicotine hit. So in a way, I'd rather not acclimatise myself to it. But it's a tobacco that I wanted to try for a long time, and the upshot of it is that in terms of a burley, it's probably the nicest burley that I've had so far. So that's something positive to take from it. Even the Semwa, which I tried, I didn't really enjoy that much. But again, that's one which I didn't really smoke enough to get a good knowledge of it. So true, you're getting up for the marathon tomorrow? What's your perspective on it, Jim? You enjoy it? Yeah, I know the problem, Jim. I've got far too many tins open. Car boot sale treat, yeah, I'd really like to go to one, but I don't usually have the time on a Sunday morning. And to tell you the honest truth, the car boot sales in London, or near London, are not the same as car boot sales in more countryside-y kind of areas. People expect prices here near London. and bargains are not really as readily available as they are in other boot sales around the country. You can get, but a lot of it will be tat. Um, but I haven't really been to car boot sales since I started smoking a pipe, and I'd really love to come across some pipes or some tobacco possibly. When I've been on vacation, it's one of the things I do is when we walk around the towns that we visit, we pop into charity shops or second-hand shops, and I'm always on the lookout for some pipes, but very, very few and far between. And the ones that they do have are usually absolutely rubbish. They're unsalvageable. Yeah, same kind of idea. Car boot sale is what it says on the tin. You get somebody has a field, and you pay £10 or something. Hi Phil. You pay £10. You park your car up, open your boot, and you sell your stuff. Basically, you open your trunk and possibly set up a table and just put stuff out to sell. And most people are selling stuff for 50p or a pound, that kind of thing. But when you're near London or in London, stuff is usually more expensive, and it kind of hasn't got as much of the spirit of a car boot sale as it might have elsewhere in the UK. At least that was how it was the last time I've been, and I haven't been for a while, so I really do want to get to one. How you doing, Phil? Just did a first smoke of some Haunted Bookshop. First time I tried it. I got that from James Stuff from Jim, and it was a nice enough smoke. I wasn't as enamoured with it as Matches is, but nevertheless, it's pleasant enough. What you been up to, Phil? Bigger the city, bigger the price, absolutely, Maui. That is the way it goes, the way of the world. That's London's more greedy, so we pay the price. Michael Razvan, you still with us? Cheers, Maui. Have a good one. Yeah, will do. What are you smoking tonight, Razvan? It's 3 a.m, fair enough. Well, it's 20 to 2 here, so I'm just kind of mulling over whether to Bahia. What's that, a cigar? Never heard of it. So just mulling over whether to light up a cigar or not. Alright. Let's have a look at the non-Cubans, see what we got. You can get some non-Cubans, Dominicans and Nicaraguans. You can get them from the B&Ms and online. There's quite a decent selection. Hey Dwarven, how you doing? We've got a Hemingway short story. This one I've had in my Tupperware for quite a while. It's Undercrown Flying Pig. Nat Sherman. What's up, Josh? You haven't seen any cigars before? These are the non-Cubans. I do have some non-Cubans in my humidor as well, in my Frigidor. But for the most part, these are my non-Cubans. Have you not smoked any cigars at all, Josh? Razvan, try the Undercrown Sun-Grown. The Sun-Grown and the Oliva Serie V, definitely. Yeah, well, they'll definitely be. What did I send you? Have I sent you that pipe? Did you get the pipe, Josh? No, it's still here. Flipping heck, I completely forgot about it. Okay, well, I'll stick some cigars in there as well. This is a nice smoke, the Mi Amor Aroma de Cuba. This is the La Gloria Cubana Serie N. I think that Cobbett of the Shire, Stephen, was smoking one of these the other day, and I believe it was one that I sent him actually. This is a Serie R which somebody gifted me. You're welcome to it, mate. Give me yours, you can have mine. I'll get your tobacco cupboard that way. There you go, that's the Bahia that you sent me. Oh. Interesting aroma on these cigars, Tree. I don't think I'm going to smoke that tonight. Ed Chapman Yaguera. Actually, this is a nice cigar. I don't think they're made anymore. At least, I bought a whole stack of these from Boswell's, and I smoked through them. And this is the last one, and I just couldn't bring myself to smoke it because it was the last one. And he told me at the time, I spoke to Archie, who I got to know when he got employed there, when he first started. And he told me that they wouldn't get any more of these. I don't know if it's because they're not making them or just that he won't be getting them. In fact, I think I'm going to light that up. Well, I'm just having a quick look on Cigars International, and they still have them. So pretty cool. Well, we'll see if we like it. Still, this will have been in my humidor for probably about 18 months now. So hopefully it should smoke. Oh, look at it, it's cracking already. I'll have to put a new doodah in my box. Yeah, still plenty of moisture in that. Not much aroma off the wrapper, but look at that. Really thin wrapper on this. Got a little pigtail on the top there. Where's my cutter? There we are. Got a massive big cap on that. Yeah, I get that, Phil. Interestingly as well, why is it that all of the tobaccos have a warning that tobaccos contain carcinogens known to the state of California? Why is that? Why is it always California? Well, thank God for that. I guess the Californians must be very sinful people. So anybody know the answer to that? So I guess all of the tobacco makers have to put it on there if they want to ship to California, I guess. These are remnants of Monte Cristo number 2. You can see it's got an old band. That's a pretty aged, that's probably about 10-15 years old. I had that on Friday. Just something I've observed about aged cigars. Um, well, aged Cuban cigars. And I've noticed that every so often you'll get tobacconists selling off aged boxes of cigars. One such box, if I can get my hand on it easily, I'll show you. So this is a box of Montecristo Edmundos, and it's aged Habanos 2011. So you'd expect them to be amazing, and they are nice. But what I've noticed is that not always, and again, I don't want to be cynical. You can see that's got the older band on it. I don't want to be cynical, but I find that if I was to be a bit cynical, I would say that these are from crops of cigars, of cigar leaf, which didn't quite make the grade originally. And what Habanos do is they put them away and then re-release them about 7 or 8 years later and sell them as aged. And the age just obviously does improve the cigars, and then they sell them that way, and they sell them for a bit of a premium given that they're aged. But I wouldn't say in every case, but in quite a percentage of the aged cigars that I've smoked, they're below par. And I've kind of since stopped buying. I wouldn't say stopped completely, but I generally just go for the regular, even the limited editions. I'm getting a little bit disillusioned with. I mean, some limited editions are cracking, no question about it. They're great. But I do get a bit disillusioned with them because you pay a premium for something which should really have, you know, fantastic flavors. Especially the limited editions are supposed to be aged 5 years, so you should be able to smoke them right there and then. You buy a new released limited edition Cohiba, and they're just not worth smoking for the most part. I mean, they're smokable, don't get me wrong, and they're nice, but not as nice as £75. That's what I mean. And I've come to the point now where I'm rather just trying, when I do buy, I'm not buying much at the moment, but when I do buy, I buy regular line cigars, and I'll speak to the people that I buy from regularly, and I'll ask them to just get me a regular line, but you know, maybe with a year or two age on it, and if not, I'll buy you know, one which is maybe 6 months or a year old, and I'd rather age it myself, and you know, smoke them every so often over the course of a couple of years, and then see how they go, because they're a lot cheaper to buy the regular line cigars, and then you can, if they're a normal crop, normal yield as they're expected, then they're only going to age and improve and become really nice and tangy and rich. Whereas when you buy aged, you don't know what you're getting. And yeah, it does sound a bit cynical, but that's what I found, and that's what I found with the Añejados. The Añejados line from Habanos, I was very, very disappointed with. In fact, the only one so far that I could say that I've really enjoyed to some extent was the recently released H. Hutman Añejados. The other ones, the Partagas, really wasn't impressed with it. The Montecristo, again, it was okay, but I really wasn't impressed with it. And it just, for me, it didn't deserve that extra band. And to me, it just seemed like a yield, a crop of a certain year which didn't make the grade, and they've just aged it and released it as añejados. And you know, people just take it, and I've decided not to. You know, I don't think it's worth the extra money. Oh, cool. Well, they're probably good. If you've kept them well humidified, they should be nice. I mean, some of them are fantastic. I've got a couple of singles which I've got from as gifts from people. I've got one in particular. It's a regional edition Ramon Allones. It's quite a big cigar, and the aroma on it, it's in a tubos, but the tube is just a generic one from a shop. And the aroma on that cigar is just heavenly. I really don't want to smoke it because I want to be able to have that aroma, just to open it and smell it. It's just quite amazing. It's really quite an addictive aroma. Hey Eric, how you doing? So these two cigars, I just can't bring myself to smoke, and I just enjoy the aroma. This is a Spanish regional edition Ramon Allones from 2008. Having said that, the aroma seems to have gone. Either that or my nose has just got too many aromas in this room, I think. And the other one is a Trinidad Fundadores, but it's an old one, it's with the old band. And I've got some from 2008, which are also very, very nice smokes. I'm just going to see if I can lay my hands on them. This is a regional edition from Andorra from 2014, I think. Lovely morning smoke with a cup of coffee. I can't get my hands on the other ones, the 2008 ones. Those are really exceptional. Very nice. I'm glad that improved for you, Eric. I certainly enjoy it. A little bit dry on hand. So what have you been up to this weekend, Eric? At the moment, we're smoking a very cracking Yaguera by A. Chapman. It's got some nice flavours. Not as good as I remember it, but in those days I wasn't smoking. I didn't have a huge array of cigars, so this was a very nice smoke for me. And it's nice, it's pleasant enough. No, it wasn't unsmokable, Razvan. I just ran out of time, and it was okay. It probably would have been good at the last third, but I ran out of time yesterday. What I can't understand is that people put down a cigar. I mean, I wouldn't usually put a cigar down at this stage, but when I go into some shops, into the lounges, and this is a Monty number 2, so that'll go up to there, and people will smoke it down there, and then they'll just set it down, and that's it. I don't get it. It's like you're wasting the cigar. You know, you've only had a part of the journey. A cigar's got to really be enjoyed from beginning to end. I can't tell you the amount of times I've been into JJ Fox's lounge, and they hadn't. They come around every so often to clear the ashtrays, and before they do that, you just walk through, take your seat, and you can see the bits of cigar which are left behind, and the vast majority of them, at least half of the cigar, is still there. And we're talking about some really expensive cigars. I mean, they can leave half a Cohiba there unsmoked. Absolutely, it is a waste, especially considering the UK prices. And you know, I'm tempted to pick them up, but I just wouldn't do that. But it's certainly a temptation. But no, I wouldn't smoke somebody else's cigar, really. Not unless I knew them. Well, it's just gone 2 a.m. Unless anybody's got some other topics they want to discuss, I think we can call it a day. It's one of the shorter versions at an hour and a half. But in terms of topics, I think I'm all dried up. Well, at least the internet held up tonight. Do I enjoy beans with breakfast? I don't have an English breakfast as such. In fact, I don't actually have a breakfast. I usually go out without breakfast, and I usually eat whilst at work, maybe a sandwich or something like that. Well, funny you should say that. I started recording a series of videos on starting pipe smoking. I recorded it, and I scrapped it. I wasn't happy with it. Somebody has asked me a few times to, I can't remember who it was now, but has asked me a few times to do a video for first-time smokers on how to smoke a pipe. There's so many videos out there done so well that unless I can do it justice, I don't see the point of it. So I would like to do it. It's also a very, very efficient clickbait video. If you go to anybody's channel who's got a video on their channel of how to smoke a pipe, that video will usually have 50, 60,000 hits, something like that, even more. Some of them a couple of 100,000. But I wouldn't do it for that. I'd have to be happy with the production of it and the information that's in it. If it's not, I just won't do it. So I would still like to do it, but it's only if it's got some value. I think out of all my videos, the one with the most hits, I can't remember which one, it might be possibly the Cuban Cigar Club, I'm not sure, the shop tour I did there. One of them has got about 10,000 hits. I don't remember which one it is. Actually, I've got a question for you guys. My next giveaway will probably happen in the next month or two. Any ideas what I should do for a giveaway? Besides for the scary dog. But not prizes, in terms of competition. Topics you'd like to see people do VRs on. That's a good one, Josh. Hi, Quaker. That was a long beer. Fog. And then ask people to share theirs. I like that. While I feed my face. When I went to Blakemore Briars, Mike, he's got his own little mix up, and I think it's yeah, I can see that there's a little bit of lagging going on. I don't know what's causing that. I think I spoke too soon when I said the internet was going well tonight. Seems to be okay at the minute. So he's Mike's got trying to remember which one. I think it's could it be Balkan Flake? It's a Garth and Hogarth number 7, I think it is. It's quite a Lakelandy kind of blend, and he mixes it with something else, possibly Cabby's mixture or something like that. Am I coming through okay now? Josh, how long have you been smoking a pipe for? I think you might have mentioned it in one of your videos. Is it about 6 years or something like that? What would you say is your 17 years? Wow. What would you say is your favorite tobacco? One that's sort of stuck with you over the years? I tried vanilla cream very early on, and because it was very early on, it bit me terribly, and I didn't pursue it. Prince Albert, I've got a tin, an old tin, which I got in the Israeli sale, which I haven't opened. I think it's a pretty old tin. I would estimate it's from the 70s or 60s, something like that. Federal stamp no longer required, 7 ounces. I've never smoked Prince Albert. I see you did quite a lot of mixing yourself there, Josh. Alright people, I think we're going to call it a day. As you can see, I haven't got much to say anymore. Stuck for words. Oh sorry, Michael, you asked me a question. You asked if you were to begin the pipe journey, could I recommend where to start? It's a difficult one. One of the things that I did say in the videos that I started doing, which I wasn't really happy with, but one of the things I did say was that a lot of people on their videos, when they talk about starting pipe smoking, they recommend, in terms of pipes, they recommend starting with corn cobs, and there's a lot of merit in what they say, but I actually would encourage you to try a briar pipe. The reason why people start with cobs is because they're throwaway, they're very cheap. You know, for £3 or £4, £5, you get yourself a cob. You can buy a bag of 10 or a dozen cobs for maybe $20 or something like that, and they're throwaway. You can try blends. If you don't like them, you can chuck away the pipe and start again. But for me, I've found that cobs, they've got an interesting structure. The base of the way the shank fits into the stem, the base of the pipe is not really sort of a standard kind of pipe type of structure. But that's not the end of the world. It's just my personal experience. A lot of people say, and there's plenty of people who only smoke cobs, you know, for years and years and years. It's a very personal thing. But I've tried cobs, I've tried meerschaum. I haven't tried mortar, but I tend to come back to the briar always. I find that the briar does give something in terms of flavour to the smoke. In terms of tobacco, again, you'll go on many videos and they'll make recommendations, and to me, I find that as well is a little bit of a, well, it's not a little bit, it's a completely subjective selection. Tobacco is just completely a personal thing. You just got to try. You just got to, you know, go to a shop or go online and buy some sample packs. You know, there's plenty of websites that do sample packs for very little money. You can go to Boswell's, you can go to Four Noggins, go to any of the decent shoretobaccopipes.com and cigars pipes and cigars. I'm sure all of them have got samples, and you'll get for maybe $10 or $20. You'll get a handful of samples for you to try. Virginias, English, Burleys, aromatics, and really that's the best thing to do. You start buying tins, and the stuff that you don't like, you end up with open tins. And yes, you know, the best advice I can give you on that is to just set them aside and come back to them. You know, anybody who's been on the pipe journey for a couple of years will be able to tell you that many tobaccos that they've tried, didn't like, come back to and really love them. Latakia is a typical one, where when you first start smoking, you try Latakia, and for me it was a kind of moment. And I kind of really, I remember one of the first purchases I bought from America was some Cult Blood Red Moon, which I did like. Easy to like that, it's a sweet aromatic. But I also bought the full set of Frogmortons, a sample. So they were 40-gram tins. I think it was from tobaccopipes.com, and it had the Frogmorton, it had the Bayou, On the Town, Cellar, and Frog on a Log. I think those are the 5 I got, and I tried them. I think I tried 2 or 3 of them. I had a pinch out of those, and I absolutely hated them. And for a while I put them up on Instagram trying to sell them, and luckily I didn't sell them, because I came back to them, you know, a few months later, and I got completely addicted to the Latakia. And Frogmorton Cellar. I don't know if I mentioned that. So that's certainly something which is you should bear in mind, is that any tobaccos that you buy, you don't quite like it, just set it aside. You want to pass it on. That's, you know, we all do that. But if you're just starting up, I would certainly encourage you to just set them aside and see how you go a few months down the line. But if you wanted, sorry, Michael, remind me whereabouts you are. Right, so in the US, you got no shortage of places to get stuff from. Are you anywhere near some good tobacconists? Well, probably the best thing to do is try and find a tobacconist. Give yourself some time when you're not under pressure from work or whatever it is, where you're in a rush to get back somewhere, and give yourself 2 or 3 hours, at least, maybe 4 hours, to just relax in one of these shops that have got a lounge. Speak to the guy behind the counter, and just take their advice. You know, take a sample of 2 or 3 different tobaccos, and just stay there and let the guy help you light up and show you how to pack a bowl, and just try it and see. You may well struggle keeping your pipe alight initially. That takes time, learning how to keep a pipe alight, and we all struggle, even, you know, seasoned smokers. I'm still relatively new, but you know, people who are like Pipe Grump, you know, been smoking for 17 years, and Tree, I don't know how long you've been smoking, probably, I don't know, 30 years or so, maybe 20, 30 years. Tree, are you a long time smoker? You know, everybody struggles sometimes with certain tobaccos to keep a pipe alight, but generally speaking, you know, it'll take you a few months to get the hang of it. And there are some basic tips, like drying out your tobacco and packing it in a way which is not too tight. Yeah, that is frustrating, keeping it alight. For me, the biggest frustration was tongue bite. More than anything else, more than any other part of the hobby, tongue bite was my biggest enemy. And there'd be times where after 2 or 3 days of smoking, I just couldn't smoke anymore. My tongue was just shot to bits. And looking back, I surprised myself how I stuck with it despite that. So that's why, in a way, I ended up smoking a lot of Latakia blends, because they tend, some of them anyway, tend not to bite me. Whereas Virginias, I couldn't get on with. Until I did, until I started going over to filtered pipes. And that completely changed everything for me. I was never really a big cigarette smoker. I did the whole teenage thing. But I stopped smoking cigarettes when I was about 22, I think. I smoked for a few years. I think I started when I was about 16 and a half, 17. And I stopped when I was about 22, shortly after I got married. Should you start with a filter pipe? Well, it depends on what your tongue is like. I would say no, because if you don't, if you don't need to, then not necessary, and you'll get a fuller flavour. I don't find that the filter reduces my enjoyment of a blend. The benefits of being able to smoke lots of blends completely outweighs any kind of narrowing of a flavor profile, but because I'm smoking with a filter. So for me, I'm very happy smoking filters. But I think when you're starting, try without and see how you get on. And if you don't suffer from tongue bite, and your tongue is, there's a lot of things which are at play. Yeah, absolutely. But there's a lot of things at play when it comes to tongue bite, including the actual makeup of the sort of the chemical makeup of your tongue and your mouth when it comes to various, I don't know, pH levels or the moisture level, or everybody's different. So you may well be perfectly fine. You may have an asbestos tongue and nothing bothers you, in which case no need to try a filter. So I would say try without, but I suppose the best advice is get a pipe which can have a filter in it and see how you go without, and then if you find that you're getting a bit too much, then stick a filter in. How did you cope with not inhaling tree? Or do you inhale your pipes? No, not good at all. You don't need Haunted Bookshop for that. You inhale a pipe tobacco, that'll knock you on your back. Although, there are some people who do inhale it. Paul Turnock, I don't know if you've come across him on IG. He did have, for a while, he was uploading videos a year or so ago. I sent him a huge amount of tobacco when he first started, and he used to do videos smoking a pipe, inhaling it, and I don't know how he did it. Retrohead is fine. Retrohead is absolutely fine, and on many tobaccos that will enhance the flavour. I find especially so on on Latakia blends. But even if you don't inhale, you still get nicotine. That's otherwise people who are moving away from cigarettes wouldn't get enough satisfaction from it. Your mouth and the back of your mouth, your cheeks, your nose, all have receptors, and you will imbibe nicotine even without inhaling. The proof of that is that haunted bookshop and cigars. You know, sometimes you feel lightheaded. It's because it's obviously a strong tobacco. I remember when I went to my dentist a while back, and I think it's a standard question which they ask. They asked me if I smoke, and I said, not really, but I do smoke a pipe. I wasn't smoking cigars that much at that time, so I said that I smoke a pipe, and she said, well, I'll write in your records that you don't smoke, but you should be aware that smoking a pipe still, and she gave me the whole biology about how you still get nicotine and it's still got dangers and so on. There was an interesting article in one of the pipes and tobacco magazines about a guy called Dr. I can't remember his name now, but he's a pipe maker, and he especially called his company Doctor, wherever it was, because he wanted to show people that despite him being a GP, a medical doctor, he still felt very happy smoking a pipe, and despite the fact that, of course, there are dangers, but certainly compared to cigarettes, it's like it's a lot safer, and everything in moderation. Sorry to hear that, Michael. How does that affect you, smoking cigars? Does that not give you hassle? Still feeling lightheaded from that haunted bookshop. Tree, have you been to the Nottingham Pipe Show? I'm curious to know whether or not there's tobacco on sale there. I have seen videos where in one of the little huts there's some stacks of tobacco, which I think it was Samuel Gawith, mostly Samuel Gawith blends. But I wonder whether, you know, when you see the American pipe shows online, there's stacks and stacks and stacks of tobacco, people bringing out some aged tobacco as well. I'm just curious to know whether that kind of thing is available at the Nottingham Pipe Show. Well, I've never actually had anything like that in my life. I was offered pop once in my teens, but I never tried it. I never took it, and I've never in my life had any kind of soft or hard drugs whatsoever. Not counting tobacco or alcohol, obviously. But it is recognised. Marijuana is recognised as a very good medicinal drug. I was just talking to my son yesterday or the day before, and he was telling me about a friend of his who had a mystery illness from when he was about maybe 17 or 18 years old, and essentially he was in excruciating pain 24/7, and the doctors couldn't work out what it was, other than the fact that all of his nerve ends were on fire. Basically, on his whole body, all his nerve ends were on fire, and he's basically he was racked in pain 24/7, and he became completely immobile. He was in bed. He was bedridden. Couldn't do anything. And at some stage they were giving up on him. The doctors couldn't find any cure. He went to America to try and get cured, but essentially they didn't find a cure. And he was on very, very high painkillers. He was on really some serious morphine drugs to keep the pain down. And the amount of stuff he was on, it was heavier than most really heavy drug addicts. And he got to a point where he just decided to self-medicate, and he used pot, and that really got him through. And despite the fact that, although now I think you're allowed to have it, you're allowed to be in possession of it. I'm not sure, I might be wrong, but they're certainly not focusing on it now, the police. And he basically self-medicated, and his mum basically considered pot to be their saviour, and she would support it. She would get the stuff for him. She would make him biscuits with pot in it for times when he didn't want to smoke, and he basically self-medicated him. And over the course of a few years, he also did a huge amount of research, and became very knowledgeable. When he was around, he was in hospital for 2 or 3 years, literally, and he became very knowledgeable about medical stuff, and he learnt as much as he could. And after a few years, it disappeared, and whether he himself got him out of it or whatever it was, but the illness went away. But it's unbelievable how there's a silver lining to every cloud. As a result of his knowledge, by being around medication so much, he became very, very interested in studying medicine. He went on a course, and then he went, and he actually managed to join up with a first responder team, an ambulance team, and he would go out with them, and he became, even though he didn't have any degree or any kind of medical certification, but they trusted him because he had such a strong knowledge. I don't know whether they actually let him treat people, or I don't know to what extent he actually was involved, but he's now studying to do something professionally, which is amazing, considering that at one stage he was given up on. Hi, cow dog. Sorry to hear that. Where have you got nerve damage? That is rough. That is very rough. When my wife was pregnant with our 4th child, she had a protruding disc in her back as a result of a very difficult labour. and she also went through a very rough time. Nerve pain is just something, you know, you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. Well, you might, because it's so horrible, but she actually had to go through 3 operations on her back, 2 of which were as a result of getting infection, which I think is everybody's worst enemy when you go to hospital. She had to have a microdiscectomy, which is essentially what had happened was that the disc between the vertebrae, one of them was protruding, and it was pushing the nerve, the spinal cord. So they had to trim it. So they had the operation, and that operation was a success. And pretty much the next day she was painless. But when you're dealing with a spinal cord and you have to tap into the spinal cord, there's always a bit of loss of spinal fluid, and that results in headaches and balance issues, because that's all connected. And she was getting, because they have to go through the fluid, there's a little bit of leakage till it heals up. And somehow or other she got an infection, which could be extremely dangerous to get it in the spinal area. So she had to be operated on again to clean it all up and sort it all out. And then it got a lot worse, and she had to get operated on again. And she ended up being on a very, very strong cocktail of antibiotics for about a year and a half. But thank God that all got sorted. That fusion you're talking about, was that intentional? Fusing? Are you talking about fusing vertebrae? Was that fusion intentional? In other words, it was done, they removed the discs so that they could fuse 2 vertebrae together? Right. Yeah, that's rough, you know. That's tough stuff. Yeah, sometimes we take, don't want to get all preachy here, but sometimes we take our health for granted. You know, it's there's so much going on in our bodies. Hey, Dead Sexy Piper, how you doing? Yeah, well, you just come on. We smoked a really very enjoyable bowl of Christmas Cheer 2014. And then I did a first smoke of Haunted Bookshop, and now we're on a cigar, yeah. But yes, very much enjoying McClellan Virginias these days, now that it's not available. Somebody once told me that, talking about taking our bodies for granted, we just go about our daily lives and everything just works, and then suddenly, you know, you get a little bit of you snag your nail, or you get an ingrowing toenail, and your life is turned upside down. And we just don't really appreciate the thousands of miracles that go on in our body all the time, literally all the time. It's just, we're walking miracles, all of us. Every single one of us is it's not just the one walking miracle, we are thousands of miracles all the time. I'm always in awe of the fact that every other mobile device on the world has to have a power source. Yet we and animals, any type of animal, we there's no power source. Yes, we have energy. We have to eat to have energy, but there's no actual external power source which allows us to live. And their heart's pumping. You know, if please God we all live to a ripe old age, and our heart will not have stopped ever since the second we were born. Well, before we were born, in fact. And that in itself is just such a phenomenal miracle. It's just, what other device can you get on this world which goes for 80, 90 or 100 years non-stop, never ever stopping? You buy a car, you might spend, you might buy the best car in the world, a Rolls Royce. At some point it's going to need some work, Absolutely, Cowdog. We were all there, weren't we? King of the world. One of my boys was big into bodybuilding, weightlifting, and he's exactly that kind of kid. He's a big lad and he's very strong, very muscular, but he's also now let himself go a bit, and he enjoys a good plate of food as well. So he's got muscles bulging, but he's also got a nice little middle-aged spread. Well, he's not middle-aged, he's still early 20s, but he's got a nice little spread. Slip chest, we like to call it. If it's not a rude question, Cowdog, how old are you? Coffee is done. 42. Man, you're a young man. You're a young man. I'm ahead of you by 7 years. I just had my 49th birthday a couple of weeks back. So the big 5-0 is looming, and looming fast. Yeah, it's easy to say that, but we all have our journeys in life, and who's to say if you would have taken care of yourself, you wouldn't have still had the same issue. There's no real benefit in looking back and saying that. You just gotta, make the best of what you got. This Jaguar is actually smoking very nicely now. Nice flavours. Chocolatey, bit of coffee, bit of tang. Really not bad at all. After the first third it was starting to get a little bit ashy. I was worrying it was going to go bitter, but smoking very nicely now. Yeah, as you said earlier, kids will be kids. Just try getting them to brush their teeth every day is a challenge. Thunder and lightning in Oxford. Josh. Do I find myself wheezing? No, not really. Not really, thankfully. A few months ago, I had a bit of a. Couldn't actually explain it. I think I went to the doctor with it as well. I didn't have a cold or a cough, but when I would breathe out, I could sense a vibration in my chest, it wasn't a rattling, but whenever I breathed out, there was a little bit of a rattle kind of thing, and I wasn't producing anything, mucus or anything like that, and it just lasted for a couple of weeks and then went away. And I had my doc check it out, and you always, first time something happens, you worry that there's something sinister going on, but he said to me that it was all fine, thank God. I do think to myself sometimes, as I'm sure we all do, that I'm a bit stupid for smoking. As soon as something goes, you're unwell or something like that, you think to yourself, God help me, is there something sinister happening? And then as soon as that goes, you just go back to doing what you always do. And I do, you do sometimes think that I'm just being stupid for the sake of some physical pleasure, some materialistic pleasure. Is it worth it? Should I be doing it? Is it stupid? Am I being unfair to my kids? God forbid, taking a risk of some illness, but I don't know. Yeah. But those are only the ones that we know about, the famous people. There are a handful of people comparatively. And the many, many thousands of people who suffer from smoking-related illnesses. And yes, the vast majority of them will be from cigarettes, but people always cite George Burns as a cigar smoker, having lived to a ripe old age in his 90s. But those are just single people. They're you're picking out a very select few from humanity. So you're talking about billions of people, and you can maybe find 20, 30, 40, 50 maybe famous cigar smokers or pipe smokers who lived to a ripe old age. But it's only because they're people that are famous. I sometimes think to myself that one day I'll come to my senses and stop it all, but I don't know. Yeah, and that's what that guy in that article that I read basically said, something along those lines. He definitely said that cigarette smoking is dangerous, but smoking a pipe in moderation, you got to weigh up the pros and cons. And for a lot of people, it's a valuable thing to do. Well, cheers, Tree. Thanks for putting a cheerful note on it. But yes, you're right. But I think for me as well, a lot of it is the YTPC. The YTPC, certainly when I started out, was as addictive as the hobby itself. The interaction, the friendships. It's for me, it's like a little microscopic world. It's not so microscopic, it's quite vast actually, but it's a world that you could immerse yourself into, where it's your own little bubble, if you like. So although my wife recognises that I have a hobby, but she's really not a part of it. It's not something she's interested in. And, you know, it's just good to have a bit of escapism, a little world that you can immerse yourself into and just chillax. And, you know, you can make those friendships where there's little risk. You know, even if you do come across some people who are perhaps not acting in the spirit of the YTPC, for the most part 99.999 recurring, the YouTube community is just a fantastic place to be part of. I remember. Hi Andy. Yeah, you could smoke outside. I tend to smoke inside for the most part, either in my car or indoors, but I do have some extraction here. Hey Mike, how are you doing? Absolutely, pipe and spirits, that's what it's all about. Josh. Yeah, he's parked outside Tree's house in Oxford. I hope that's not a euphemism there, Mike. Where were we? Yeah. So so the YTPC for me is a huge part of it all. People like Mike Blocker, come on, salt of the earth. Yeah, those are the arguments we say, you know. But at the end of the day, the argument against smoking is that the percentages are higher. I think we're going to let this one go. Okay. Well, I think it's late enough. It's 3 a.m. Smoking, drinking, fast food, driving, flying. Yeah, I'm pretty bad on all of those, to be honest. There is risk in everything. Yeah, 3 minutes indeed. Well, gentlemen, I think that the time has come. Yeah, time to get some sleep. What's our keyhole? What? The crowd is growing. Yeah, I think that the American crowd is just settling in for the evening. What is it? They're 10 o'clock. Hey? What's that, Mike? Cheers. What's ETOH, Mike? Ethanol. Right. Alright, people. I'll say thank you to everybody. And thanks, Cowdog. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Tree. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Pipes and Spirits. And Josh. Thanks all for joining. A very, very enjoyable evening once again. And I hope to see you all next week, if not before. And yeah, have a great week, everybody. Successful week, peaceful week, and I will catch you on the next one.